with apartheid, occupation, and genocide, and severing of relationships with any Israeli academic institutions that are complicit with those actions, those activities, those crimes. It is eminently reasonable, and I want to say on a personal level, I've supported BDS since I published the Shock Doctrine in 2007. I worked with the BNC National Committee, the Boycott National Committee, to figure out a way to publish the Shock Doctrine in Hebrew and Arabic in a way that respected the BDS call. We had the launch in Ramallah. And I wonder every day what would have happened if we had listened to the BDS call when it was made in 2005, which calls for boycotts, divestment, and sanctions until Israel complies with international law, including the right of return. That is a just demand, and the world would be absolutely different if we had listened to it when that call was made. So, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, we can open this up to questions now. If the press has any questions, if anybody has any questions for Naomi specifically, or for us as student organizers, as campers, as folks who are participating in the encampment at the People's Circle for Palestine.
I have a question about your characterization as students in the media. Are you privy to it? What do you think of how people are portraying you?
Sorry, so by characterization, I assume you mean this outside agitator thing that's going around?
The
Or
outside agitators, the Soros funding, the Islamic Republic funding, the anti-Semitism, violence, etc.
I'm sure Naomi could also speak to this, but when I hear things like Soros funding, I just think about every single tired dog whistle from BLM, from Antifa days. These are, like, we're better than these. Like, come on. We've been hearing these Soros funding things and I still haven't got a paycheck. I can assure you that I am a student at this university. My friends here are students at this university. Why would we be setting up camp in this university if we were not? So yeah, our characterization as students is pretty much the only way to characterize us. We've been here. Also, I can assure you that the administration knows us very well because we've been in their face for a long time. So I don't know where this is coming from. Yeah, it's just tired and we should move on.
And also reducing the Palestinian call for liberation and this very legitimate movement to being hateful, to being anti-Semitic. That is racist. That is anti-Palestinian racism. It is absolutely unacceptable. And the fact that the media can get away with characterizing Palestinians and pro-Palestinian activists and students to being things like anti-Semitic, it should not be the fact that these things are going live on television, on the radio, we should all call it what it is. It is racist. And so we do not accept it. We have a code of conduct for everybody who enters this camp, and we have made it very clear, absolutely no hate speech, absolutely nothing that is offensive to anybody, regardless of their identity, including our Jewish comrades, Muslims, Hindus, Christians. That is not what this is about, and this is a tactic to take away from our demands, which are disclosure and divestment. And if anybody does that, their interests are clear, and we will absolutely stand up against it. And we hope that we can have questions from the media that are more specific to the reason that we are here, which is calling on our university as members of its community, as its students, to be on the right side of history, like Naomi said, to do what they have done in the past, to be principled in their own divestment principles. And so so that's how we feel about it. We think that it is absolutely unacceptable, and it is shocking that in 2024 the Palestinian liberation movement can be reduced, including when it's at the university level, can be reduced to being hate speech. It is disgusting, it is racist, and we stand against it.
I just wanted to speak specifically to this point because I've read the quote unquote articles about this. So what is happening at this camp, obviously, is about politics. It's about justice. It's also about economics, right? That's what divestment is. It's using an economic tool, a tried and tested, nonviolent tool to put pressure. It is about the most important kind of politics, right? Genocide is often referred to as the crime of crimes because there is no crime greater than attempting to eliminate a people in whole or in part, and Israel is currently under investigation for genocide at the ICJ. It is also the crime of crime because it contains all other crimes within it, right? So this is a political demonstration, action, act of civil disobedience. That's what it is. Its demands are about politics. But what we've seen in the press is a concerted attempt to falsely frame this explicitly political conflict as an identity conflict, right? A conflict over whether or not Jewish students feel safe and included. And there are many Jewish students here who are going to celebrate Shabbat soon. But I want to unpack this a little bit because I think it's important. It's getting repeated here and about other camps, so I really want to spend a little time on it, okay? It sets a very dangerous precedent if we accept that this is grounds for massive state repression and crushing of political speech and academic freedom. It is the nature of political protests that we often do not feel welcome when we go to protests that are organized with people who have different worldviews than us. I would not feel comfortable if I were to go to a Polyev rally, okay? Now, I would not have a right to say, if I didn't feel comfortable there, that I was physically threatened unless I was physically threatened, right? That would be an experience of political disagreement. And I want to stretch this a little bit for us to think about this. Narendra Modi is currently running for a third term, okay? He is a very dangerous person. He has brought fascism to India. If there was a rally on this campus of Muslim and Sikh students who named that, who said that this represented a fascist turn in India, it could very well be that some Hindu students might say that they felt unsafe. Because of that. And you know what? They could very well feel unsafe because of that. But that doesn't mean that they are unsafe. It doesn't mean that they're under threat. Because what we have to understand is that this is what ethno-nationalism does. It entwines individual and personal identity with a project of state building, so that when that state is attacked, it feels like a personal attack. Now, in the case of Zionism, it is a particularly potent move because the whole history of Zionism is entwined with the long history of Jewish trauma. And Israel positions itself falsely as the only safe place for Jews. I don't accept that. I demand that Canada be safe for Jews. Okay? But because of the particular nature of this state building project that has entwined Jewish identity with this state building project and the issue of Jewish safety, when some people who are immersed in that ideological project see a Palestinian flag, hear a chant for Palestinian liberation, they may feel unsafe. That does not mean they are unsafe. And the media has to stop parroting that line, because it will not just stop here, it will extend and extend. And I am very proud, as I said, to be part of groups like JVP, which are trying very hard and are part of a growing movement of disentangling Jewish identity from this ideological state building process. It is a liberation movement, and you're going to see a little bit of it at the Shabbat ceremony.
Unless I'm mistaken, the statement was that Zionism is not a dirty word and it is a tragedy that that our Jewish people in Canada are feeling unsafe.
Zionists should feel safe in Canada.
That's what the statement was. There you go.
I think Zionism is up for debate. And I think a lot of people are very, very nervous about that. Because there's been a monopoly of a lot of these big legacy organizations who have had a stranglehold of just saying, like, we speak for all Jews. And now that's obviously not true. We see it in the huge demonstrations. We see it here. We see it through networks like the Jewish Faculty Network, who represent a diversity of Jewish opinion. And so a lot of these legacy organizations that have been able to say, we speak on behalf of Jews for a long time and not have that challenge are sort of freaking out because of that connecting with everything having to do, like, with the fates of Jews with the Zionist project. So that is being disentangled, and I think we're seeing some positive steps, including the fact that there's going to be a debate. The Munk debates are going to be about Zionism. I mean, look, I never thought I'd see the day. I think it's healthy.
So my question kind of piggybacks on the first question. Do you not find it interesting / hypocritical that even what Hillary Clinton told 2 days ago, where it's like on one hand, students are portrayed as these hardened, organized, dangerous, pro-terror mob. That's one narrative. The other narrative is that, well, these are just whiny brats who are making a big ruckus, who don't know anything about the Middle East, who are putting up tents and disrupting our, like, esteemed institution. How are those two narratives left to reconcile? Do you not find that people very, like, work those together? You can't be pro-terror and organized and well-versed, but also ignorant and how does that...
Yeah, it is a paradox, isn't it? On the one hand, I mean, like my comrade said, we've been asked if we're getting funded by George Soros. On the other hand, we're supposed to be students who don't even know what they're doing, and they're going to leave whenever they get bored. It's a paradox, and what it displays is that the aim is not any genuine commentary on what these students' encampments are about. It's about discrediting voices that people in power do not want to hear. These encampments, there's a reason they're growing across North America and on every continent, including Antarctica, actually, at this point. There's a reason they're growing, and it's because there's as Naomi said, there's a legitimate moral cause that we are following. We do know what we're doing, and we do not need to be supported by terrorists or as the anti-Semitic trope goes, billionaires, Jewish billionaires, or anybody else in order to be able to speak up. And that's what makes people nervous, and that's why the narrative is created that has these paradoxes built into it, that we're on the one hand we're clueless, on the other hand we're collapsing the state or something like that.
I think they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, and I think that if they were worried about moral consistency, they wouldn't be supporting of genocide.
I have a question to the student organizers. How has the university responded to your demands? And please maybe tell us about the process. And do you see any good faith or bad faith? And just tell us about the process with the university administration and you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So I do want to preface this, my answer, with saying that we have been organizing on this campus for 6+ months. We have used all of the quote unquote soft approaches that the university talks about, from die-ins to teach-ins to vigils to walkouts to protests. We have done everything, and they were absolutely unresponsive. And so now they are reducing this, again, very legitimate encampment to being a health and safety hazard. They have not responded to our demands yet. They have not even acknowledged them in a way that we think is necessary for them to do so. They know we're here. They are ignoring our presence. They are erasing our presence. It is not okay. And of course, it is because our interests aren't aligned with theirs. We still do believe that they can be leaders in divestment. That is why we are here. Not only do we believe that, but we are holding them to it, like they have done, again, for South African apartheid, for one. And so we do not think that they have been acting in good faith thus far. given that they have been unresponsive and they have used tactics such as, again, reducing this very legitimate encampment to being a risk, a health and safety risk, when in fact, if they cared about our safety, they would make a statement about the agitators who come here and harass us. They would make a statement about counter-protesters who are legitimate risks to our collective safety. And so we don't think that they are in good faith when they talk about safety. We don't think that they care about our safety. And if they do, make a statement, stand up for your students, for your community members, for your staff, for your faculty. And if they're not doing that and they still say that they care about safety, well, then we will call them out on it. And going forward, again, we are holding space for them to come forward and to respond to our demands, and not only to respond to them, to take them up. These are very legitimate demands, and I think by framing them as being uncalled for or as being difficult demands, again, it's a tactic to take away from how reasonable they are and how they are, again, based on precedent that the UFT has followed and that they are failing to do right now, and we must call them out on it.
Yeah, we're just going to take maybe one or two more questions, and then we're going to get prepared for the Shabbat dinner. Sure, go ahead.
Can you guys talk about how it feels when the media comes when there are outside agitators and they are given a platform and asked why are they here, etc., all their opinions, but they don't platform or show the racist things that they have said, such as go back to Gaza, welfare people, da 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 da, all these things. So the media will say, we'll show them, we'll interview them, we'll ask them why they're here, but they won't show these racist things that I've heard them myself say outside the camp. How does that make you guys feel as students?
Yeah, before my comrade answers, and they also don't center the Jewish folks on this side who are dealing with very real anti-Semitic remarks and hate from the counter-protesters who pointed them and called them quote-unquote Nazis, who pointed them and called them self-hating Jews. That is unacceptable. That is anti-Semitic. And does the media give that enough coverage? I don't think so. And I would love for you to expand.
I think with the way the media is structured today, what they're really looking for is engagement, and that makes them have to force or flatten every narrative into these, there's an academic next to me, so I'm going to use a word, Manichaean narratives, these two sides of every story, right? If they don't find that, they don't get the clicks, they don't get the engagement. Now, that isn't to say that we must do away with the media. It does mean that we must hold them to a higher standard than that, right? Again, as Naomi said, as we've been saying, as people have been saying for decades, the Palestinian cause is a just cause. Just causes do not need to have two sides. There is one side, and it is liberation. So